We're live.
You're very posh, David, compared to...
Yeah, we're good to go. Spencer, you're muted.
I'd like to welcome everyone, wherever you are watching, to Edgware United Synagogue's monthly cantorial session in its adult education program. Today we welcome back the European Cantors Association following their well-received session last October, 5 Dazzling UK Cantors. You can find it on the Edgware US YouTube channel. This session moves on from a stress on individual chazanim to the well-known choirs of the past and has a particular emphasis on the provincial choirs and is entitled 5 UK Choral Cantorial Gems. We have the same two presenters, both leading members of the ECA. Alex Klein is the co-founder, convener, director of the European Cantors Association and is a leading advocate of the need to employ cantors in synagogues. David Prager has studied the music and biographies of the cantors of the 20th and 21st centuries. He is in demand as an accompanist at cantorial concerts due to his ability to play all the most famous cantorial compositions in a key appropriate to the voice of the soloist. I understand that although we have advertised 5 choirs, if time permits, we should have 6 or more. At the end of the presentation, you will have the opportunity to make comments and ask questions.
Hello, good evening, and welcome everybody to this fascinating evening of beautiful choral music. I'm very proud to be associated with the choral traditions of the provinces and of London. Many years ago, under Martin White and then Manny Fisher, the renowned London Jewish Male Voice Choir was the creme de la creme of music throughout Anglo Jewry and throughout the world, even being compared to the Don Cossack Choir from Russia. It had tremendous, great soloists who were chazonim in their own right and toured the world extensively in the 1960s and the early 1970s. In the provinces, we were very, very fortunate to have in Manchester the Manchester Jewish Male Voice Choir, originally under the conductorship or the baton of Fabian Gonski, and later on the baton was handed down to Adrian Isaac, who took the choir to a different dimension and kept the traditions of the choir. The choir also sang, or part of the choir also sang, at the Higher Crumpsall Shul, accompanying firstly Chazan Shlomo Hirschman and later on Chazan, excuse me, Chazan Hillman. They were again acclaimed and they were the choir to go to, and Chazan Benjamin Muller preferred them to his choir and used them in a most outstanding recording which he made in Antwerp, and he flew the choir over, and it showed you the extent, how beautiful our choirs were and how well formed, and went around the world and toured and toured and toured. Unfortunately, today we are left with very, very few first-class choirs. The demise of the synagogue choir is very upsetting, and today we are trying to play for you some of the great pieces, some of the wonderful chazonim of the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and present day. We also have surprises for you, and I'm sure you will enjoy this wonderful evening. I will now hand over to David Prager, who will take the session further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. So Elliot, if we could have the first slide on the screen share showing the covers of various records and the insides of a shul here or there, and a concert hall of a choral cantorial concert. So Elliot, over to you to show slide number 1. So you see, top left, Johnny Gluck, that's the record he made with the Marble Arch Choir. There's a rare picture in the middle of the Western Synagogue, as was the interior, which boasted Emanuel Fischer's synagogue choir. On the right, you also see a record of an Emanuel Fischer choir. On the bottom left, you see the inside of Higher Crumpsall Synagogue with Chazan Hillman and Fabian Gonski's choir behind him. And in the bottom right, you see St. John Smith Square, which is nowadays a concert hall, with the Manchester Jewish Male Voice Choir. And in the white jacket, you see Adrian Isaacs, the conductor. And in the foreground, you see the world famous Chazan Benjamin Muller. And you're going to hear Benjamin in a few minutes. So Elliot, if we could have the second slide, please. We're now going to home in on various cities in the UK. London, you're going to hear something from Emanuel Fischer, and you're also going to hear about the London Cantorial Singers. You're also going to hear about the Ne'ima Choir. Manchester, you're going to hear a calypso version of Sholem Rov with Avraham Hillman singing. In Leeds, you're going to hear Chazan Ian Camisar singing Mipnei Chatoenu by Brun. And I think on the participants, I saw Michael Saville smiling from the screen there. And I think it's no secret to say that he was present and participating as a musician in that recording. Moving on to Birmingham, you see bottom right picture, the interior of Singers Hill Synagogue. And Singers Hill in the provinces there was a terrific center of cantorial art. And the Birmingham Zimbria choir made a couple of records. I'm going to play an excerpt of this BBC produced Zimbria choir record entitled Shema Kolena. We're going to hear a little bit of the quintessentially English, although Russian-born composer Samuel Alman. Elliot, please, could we have the next slide? So here, from a concert in 2002 in the Bridgewater Hall in Manchester, where Chazan Muller was invited to come with his 3 sons. So there's a 4 tenors concert. On the left, you see a picture of the London Cantorial Singers actually taken at the Lewandowski Festival in Berlin. And on the right, you see the soloist who we're about to hear, Cantor Yossi Muller, one of the sons, the eldest son of Benjamin Muller. Now, I think we have in our guest list from Israel an important guest, one grandson of Chazan Yitzchak Eshel. So, Erev Tov to Moshe Eshel. Baruch haba. It's a nechaya to see you. And your grandfather is responsible for this piece being preserved, because when Martin White, the English choir master, went on Aliyah, he worked very extensively with your grandfather. And one of the recordings they made was this very impressive Misha Beirach, which eventually came into the hands of the Muller family, and it's been recorded by Yossi Muller, both, as the picture suggests, with the London Cantorial Singers at their Manchester concert, and also later in Israel with the Antwerp Choir. So we're going to hear Yossi Muller singing this terrific Misha Beirach. So Elliot, please play it. Thank you very much.
Avraham, Yitzchak, veYaakov. Kol hakodosh hazeh im kol kilos ובניהם ובנויסיהם וכל אשר אלוהים
Thank you very much, Elliot. So that gets the blood pumping anthemic, the Yishlach Brocha there at the end of that piece. Fantastic composition. So moving swiftly on to another Muller, the father who gave a concert with the Manchester Jewish Male Voice Choir, the whole of the Manchester Jewish Male Voice Choir, in the big concert hall in London, St. John Smith Square, in the 1980s. And we have managed, we originally only had a sound file of this, but now we've got a video of it. And here you've got Benjamin Muller in his heyday with the Manchester Jewish Male Voice Choir in their heyday, singing this terrific piece by Zabel Zilbert. But before we go there, maybe we could let Moshe Eshel, if he's prepared to be unmuted, and say a few words after having heard the piece that his grandfather saved there. Moshe, if I unmute you, or ask you to unmute. There you go. I know it's unfair to ask you to suddenly speak, and if you're...
Hi there.
Oh, there you go, brilliant.
Hope you can hear me well.
Hello, mate, we can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and thank you for the introduction. That's it. It's
I asked
exciting.
all your father's Talmidim. I asked
Grandfather, yeah.
Your grandfather's Talmid. I asked Chazan, and all the big Chazanim of Israel, yeah, Chazan Hershtik, Chazan, I think even Motzin I asked, and a few more. What was the fate of your grandfather during the war? Because he taught them all, and none of them knew. And we've got here on board also Benjamin Meisner, who was a young cantorial aspirant in Israel at the time of your grandfather's greatness. And nobody, so he was very modest about his survival during the Second World War, but he did come off proba in England, both to London and to Manchester, just before the war. And he was offered a job in Manchester. And unfortunately, his previous job had been in Munich. He went back to Hungary, and you can tell the tale from there.
Right. He was offered a job, and I think, as he said, came for exams and to check fitness, and was accepted. But the actual acceptance was a letter that you found for me in the archives of the community, telling him, sent that to Hungary already, where he was taking care of his sick mother who passed away later. By the time she passed away and he was ready to come and take up the job, travel was already impossible. And he was, the little that we know, because he didn't share with us even as well, but I did find his name in the conscripted worker regiments of the Hungarian army, which is a known thing during the Holocaust. A lot of age applicable people, Jewish, were conscripted into the workforce before the war started with Germany, but a lot of them stayed in the Hungarian army during the German occupation. It wasn't disbanded or anything. From his short stories, we just know that it was really hard, not a lot of food, definitely not a lot of kosher food, and that I don't know if everybody knows, he was small statured, he wasn't a big person, but having to carry 100-pound flour sacks and, digging holes and things. They didn't use them for like meaningful work, but mostly as, just busybodies.
And you said
anyway,
he endeared himself somehow to the commanding officer.
Right, his sergeant liked him and would slip him sausage every once in a while or something like that. And that's how he, sort of drifted through the war. I don't know if it was disbanded and when, but probably after the Allies, took over.
Yeah.
And he made his way over to England after the war, hoping to get the job he was promised before.
Yeah. I read the minute
exactly
books,
realizing what happened.
In the minute books of the Manchester Central Synagogue, which are in the Manchester Central Library now, because that synagogue is now a Shia Islamic center. You don't find too much of the minyan in that part of Manchester anymore. And the shul was prepared to wait for him until Pesach 1939. And your great-grandfather wrote back to the shul to say, very sorry, he's stuck in conscription in the Hungarian army, and he cannot take up the position. And by the way, for other readers of the Jewish Chronicle in London, you can see the entry also from around the same time before the war, while Moshe Eshel's grandfather was in England. He was called Friedlander before he Israelified his name to Eshel. And he was a prober where Krusevitsky had been in Shacklewell Lane.
Yeah.
So he might have been offered a job there as well. We don't know. But anyway, he very dutifully went back to his parents.
The tale was that he was offered. Nobody knows. A lot of this was lost in the war, obviously. I don't know if I heard this story from him or maybe my father about when he declined the job in England, that he offered them like his friend as a good replacement, and a different chazan. I do not recall the name. And
well, the chazan who got the job was from Budapest. It was Moshe Price, who had been
right, and he claimed that he was responsible for saving his life from the war.
Later on in the minute book, it's amazing to read. Even though the Gaboim were pretty cruel to the Chazonim, they got Moshe Price and his wife and his two very young children visas out of Hungary in 1939, after he davened for Pesach there, and the family was saved. And all the rest of Moshe Price's family was wiped out because he also had to leave Hungary because he was born in Poland, so he was a Polish alien, and the fascists in Hungary didn't like Polish Jewish aliens, and so the whole of Price's family in Lodz was killed, and Mrs. Price's father was deported to Auschwitz and murdered there. Only Mrs. Price's mother and one brother, who jumped off a train to Auschwitz, apparently survived the war, and both got to Israel. That's a new piece of information for you. Also from a grandson. This is from Moshe Price's grandson. And then those interested in American immigration will be interested to know that old Mrs. Pollack, the mother-in-law of Moshe Price, was rejected on entering America in 1951, and she lived out her days in Israel. So Price, his wife, and the two children got into America in 1951, but I don't think the Americans wanted a 60-odd-year-old lady as a new immigrant at that time. So,
and David, I think we need to move on now.
Yeah, we'll move on. That was very interesting. Thank you very much. And we're now off to London with Havdalah. If you can find the film, Elliot, and share it with us, that would be great.
Yeah, I think the next one's audio only, so I'll share sound.
So well, maybe I'll share it then. Let me. I'll try and find it. No, not that one. Not that one. Stop share. I will find it very quickly. Let me just ask you, can you see on your screens a picture of Muller about to sing Havdalah?
Yes.
You can?
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll start him then. You're hearing it, seeing it okay now. Spencer, give me a thumbs up if it's all right.
The sound is very quiet. Do you want to make sure you're sharing sound?
It's on the maximum. You'll have to turn your speakers up at home. So there we go. That was something else, wasn't it? I think Alex might want to come in and speak a little bit about synagogue choirs, especially in north of England, because we're going to hear Sholem Rov from the Higher Kranzel Choir. It's one of his favorite pieces. So Alex, over to you.
Just wanted to say we also promoted in the provinces, it wasn't just London, choirs of international fame. We brought over, or I brought over, the Moscow Choral Synagogue Choir, conducted by Alexander Tsaliuk, and I took to Queen's Park Synagogue in Glasgow, the Johannesburg Choir with cousin David Bagley, and I think Evelyn, who might be here tonight, was with us because they came by coach and they stayed in the Queen's Park area.
It's a great honour to welcome Evelyn again to this presentation. She keeps
so I'm sure Evelyn remembers this. I'm sure Evelyn remembers the.
And also talking about Glasgow, we have a member on board from the old Glasgow choral fraternity in one, Melvin Miller, who I see smiling from the screen. So good evening, Melvin. Thank you very much for your recordings of the Glasgow choir in the days that Adrian Isaacs was up there, but time simply does not permit if we want to get home.
I also remember the year
tomorrow morning.
The year 2000, I brought over the Jerusalem Great Synagogue Choir as a gift to the Christian community in the millennium, in the 2000 year, with solos were meant to be Natalie Herstig and Shmuel Barzilai. And
we better introduce your Sholem Rov now.
Well, I'm just going to, Naftali couldn't make it. He got stuck in Bournemouth, and Moshe Haschel took over with the Camerata Orchestra at the Bridgewater. And that was something, again, very, very special with all very, dignitaries. And it put Jewish choral music on the map. And there was a very, very big non-Jewish following because of that. So it makes a lot of difference that it's amazing how non-Jews come to synagogues and chalish for our beautiful liturgy.
Sure. Right. So Elliot, can you find for Alex his favorite piece? Sholem Rov. Fantastic. So you can have calypso music in shul as well. Looking at the guest list, the distinguished guest list from Israel, we are very, very honored to have with us tonight Judy Gluck, and we are about to hear Johnny Gluck with the Marble Arch Choir singing another Misha Beirach, maybe even more impressive. And I think, Elliot, please roll the soundtrack. Can it be a bit louder? This is composed by Philip Modell, who was in Ireland. He was a German, emigrated to Ireland, and a brilliant Terrific, thank you. I see her smiling from the screen. Also, two of Johnny's prestigious accompanists. One Daphne Lewis masquerading as Jack Coleman, and one Alexander Knapp, the famous Professor Knapp, London music professor, who I think is playing the organ on that very recording, if I'm not mistaken. So, moving swiftly on, another Rebbe of Daphne's is now going to sing Kol Nidre. This is Chazan Philip Copperman, the brilliant Irish lyric tenor who had many posts across the world, but in the 1960s, he was in London and he recorded this. So, Elliot, this is the first bit of Kol Nidre with Emmanuel Fisher's choir, and you will really enjoy it. And one of the previous Edgware talks, John Lawrence says he was present at one of the Slichas services at the Western Synagogue when Philip Copperman was there, and he was more or less moved to tears just listening to Cantor and choir in that circumstance. Thank you very much. That was beautiful. At the risk of some chagrin from the organizers, I must ask the Colemans, Alexander Knapp and Judy Gluck to unmute themselves if that's possible. If I no, right, one unmute request, two unmute requests. Alexander, that unmute request. Okay. So maybe Daphne, do you want to go first and
what would you like me to say?
Recollections about working with Johnny Gluck and Philip Copperman in the 1960s London?
Yes. Well, Johnny, we used to travel to various places and give concerts. He was amazing. And Philly, I did more with because I met him through the London Jewish Male Choir, and he used to entertain me up in his place in where they lived up in town. I used to go there a lot as a student, and I did a lot of work with Philly. And
Alex has just found some Italian opera recordings of Philly, which I'm going to send you after.
Okay.
They're really, really terrific. Alex, then a quick word from you. Good evening. Hello.
Which Alex do you
I
mean?
mean Alex Knapp. Alex.
No, but it's nice to share a name with Alex Klein. That's very nice.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, yes, of course, I remember Johnny very fondly, and Judy, and indeed the whole family, because I think I first came into contact with them when I was playing chuppahs at the Marble Arch Synagogue. And this would have been probably in the early 70s, something like that, early 1970s. And I remember my ex-wife Caroline and I, we would visit Johnny and Judy and the family upstairs in their flat and have a very nice social time as well. And Johnny was a fantastic cousin, beautiful voice, very, very, very musical, of course. I mean, all of this goes without saying. And it was a great pleasure to have the opportunity to make that recording, the one that you featured on the advert.
Yeah, it's one of the best recordings ever.
Yeah, because you know, it was a real great pleasure. And of course, you know, we were very sorry when Johnny actually with family then went off to South Africa. But of course, even more you know, even more upset, of course, at his early death. But in any case, he's left a fantastic legacy. And I think, you know, he is remembered most affectionately and very fondly as a person and as a human being, as well as a wonderful cousin and a lovely voice. And I must say, it's been a great pleasure and privilege to have been associated with him in whatever capacity.
Thank you very much. So I've also asked to unmute Evelyn in South Africa and Judy in Israel. Are you able to unmute yourselves?
Yes, I have.
Jolly good. So hello, Evelyn.
Hello.
I'm sure you've got a lot of recollections also of working with Johnny.
Wonderful. Too many to name. It was a great privilege and a pleasure to work with a cousin of that caliber, a wonderful musician, a wonderful singer, and over and above all, a wonderful friend. And I just say I had big hugs and kisses to Judy, because the Pluk family and my late parents and I, we were actually like one family from the time I met Johnny in April 1979. And it was a great privilege. And thank you for these wonderful programs that you present. It's now in South Africa, 10 to 11 at night, but I'm certainly wide awake.
Yeah.
I never miss it.
Fantastic. Between South Africa, America, and England, there were some really beautiful services and terrific chazonim. Right. It says here Judy G asked to unmute, but she hasn't so far been able to do so. Judy, are you there? If so, are you able to say a few? If not, we should proceed to featuring now Leeds and Ian Camisar singing Umipnei Chatoenu with the Leeds Jewish Choral Society. Off we go. Thank you very much. Elliot, have you found? Thank you for that. And I've asked Michael Saville, who was playing the organ there, to unmute himself if he is able to. Are you there, Michael? I'll leave the request on. No? So maybe we'll have a chance to come back to you. So now, still in the provinces, we're going to play a rarer recording. The Zimbria Choir of Birmingham made a couple of records, and I saw Cousin Brickman was online as well. And let's see if he can say hello to us even.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm very disappointed.
That's Michael Saville first, is it? All right. So Michael, go first. Was that you on the organ there with the
Me. It was recorded in Harrogate Synagogue, and it was a long, long day. It was great fun. But I'm disappointed you played the same little extract of the Mipnei that you played last time in this program.
Sorry about that. It's the best. And it's got
there's a lot more.
You can listen to the whole record if you're in touch with either Michael or me, and it'll be a pleasure to give you 45 minutes of the Leeds Jewish Choral Society. So thank you very much for that, Michael. Now, Cousin Brickman, have you got some recollections you would like to say about Birmingham?
And please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me
Hello.
now?
Oh, hello. Good evening.
Hi, it's lovely to be here. I'm listening to so many colleagues, past, present, and please God should be future. That's the saddest thing.
Yeah.
I was 12 years in Birmingham, 12 fantastic, marvelous years, assured great traditions. My predecessor was the Reverend Louis. Louis was Judy's father as well. But Cousin Louis was an opera singer in Germany, he sang. And as soon as the Germans came in, I remember his words, Yid Arois, go sing in shul, if you want to sing. He was a great cousin. And my predecessor, when I came back to London, was the Reverend Charles Lowy, a beautiful, sweet, cultured voice. And, well, I went to Cape Town, South Africa, so there were several congregations that I went to, all fantastic, English congregations, beautifully. And then choir master, we say Manny Fisher was my choir master at Hampstead. Perhaps I'll have an opportunity to speak on another occasion, but I don't want to spoil this evening.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure Alex will interview you one time.
And you've got my record there. You haven't got my record anniversary.
I'm going to play something from the other record. I've got your record as well, 150 years of Singers Hill.
That's it.
We're going to do a little bit of Alma now, singing V'chach Hoya Omer. So Elliot, over to, thank you very much for that. Elliot, over to you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Moving swiftly on, we've now got Sim Sholem with Yankee Lemma and the Ne'ima Singers, conducted by Mark Temeles. And this is a performance from Krakow, the Jewish Music Festival. Elliot, have you got this video? If not, I will share it, but if you can share it, so much the better.
I have video for this one.
Yeah. I sent you a link for it, but maybe it's easier for me to do it. I'll do it. I'll have a crack.
I've got it. I just bring it up in the right way.
All right.
Shalom toivo uveracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, oleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, amecha. Shalom toivo uveracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, oleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. בשלומך, שלום טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל. אמן. יא בבא ביי. שלום טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ישראל, 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 אמן.
I just want to mention something. On the piano, I don't know if anybody knows, is the late, beautiful, fabulous pianist Danny Gildar, who's accompanying the choir. Tremendous pianist. And you'd also notice in the front row is one of Natalie Herstick's pupils, Chaim David Burson, who is now the cousin on the Upper West Side in New York. Thank you.
And two people here present tonight, or three at least, were at that. I can see Natalie and Jerome Cohen from Edgware were there. That's where we first met them. So very nice. Say hello. And also I can see from Edgware Malcolm Cowan on board. He is, of course, a bar mitzvah boy of the Central Synagogue in Manchester, which is where Yitzhak Eshel trialed before the war and where Chazan Price sang during Malcolm's childhood. Right, let us move on to the bonus piece because the Gaboyim aren't here and they can't tap their watch. So we can carry on for one bonus piece, which Alex has chosen. And it gives us hope for the future because this was as recent as last week in Manchester at Holocaust Memorial Day in Salford. And I'm going to try and share my screen and show you Yossi Muller.
This was literally just recorded a couple of weeks ago in the studio by Chazan Muller with Tim Dempsey and his choir. Chazan Muller now is the rabbi of, what's the synagogue called? Hillop Synagogue in Manchester. He's left Whitefield and he's very, very happy where he is.
And this is a piece which also is brought to us on a route via his father in Antwerp, composed by Moshe Franco. And it comes from Hallel, and you will enjoy it. So if I can try and find it, I will. Just one sec. Because this is so new that even Elliot didn't yet have the chance to have it, but it is fantastic. So, yeah, sure. I'm going to try and make that. Oopsie daisy do. Let me just make it a full screen thing first before I share it. Very strange. I will find it pretty soon, don't worry. It's speak amongst yourselves while I'm.
There's so much beautiful choral work which we've now come across, and it is important to preserve it. And the most important thing is, if we teach our children and we teach them in school the beauty of liturgy and liturgical work, we have a future. If we don't teach our children in the Jewish day schools and in children's services and youth minyanim, we have no future. So please, if you love this sort of music and you want a future for this sort of music in the synagogue and our heritage, please press your schools to do so. Thank you.
Let me just.
Sorry, David, you need to unmute. I tried to.
Right, okay, can you hear that? Let me just stop at that moment. Can you all hear it okay? Put your thumbs up if you can. Yeah, very good. Muller. So it's back to Spencer. Thank you very much.
We can take a few questions or comments if you raise your virtual hands before we finish this session. Anyone? Flora, please unmute.
Good evening. Thank you so much. That was fascinating. In fact, my daughter phoned from Israel, and living in Israel, she grew up in the United Synagogue and loved the choir as well. So she's listened with me for a while. I said, Simon, you must listen to this. It's so beautiful. It's Sim Shalom.
Where are you?
I'm here at the moment. I'm in England, sorry, but I want to ask you a question. I'm always moved by Julian's brother. I always forget because it's always Julian. I know it's Alex. Alex, I'm always moved by your passion for synagogue choirs, and I must tell you, I agree with you. And I would like to ask you a question, because in our shul in Edgware, when I'm in Edgware, we do have choir of some sort. It's wonderful. It's lovely. When it's an occasion, when it's a simcha or something like that, the choir get together. Sometimes we have the Ne'ima singers who are also delightful. They're all lovely. They all do their best and they sing with their heart. My question to you is, how many shuls actually have a regular choir? Do you know? Is there even one? Because we have a choir. We have a choir in Yamim Noraim and things like that. It's not all the time.
I don't know. I think Great Portland Street have a choir, but it's not all the time. In Manchester, not as far as I know, but there are chazonim who augment choirs every now and again for special occasions. The problem is, if the United Synagogues, this is a suggestion that we have, if they had a musical director who would then liaise with the different shuls from the United Synagogue and appoint somebody in those shuls, then we, the ECA, and other people like us can help them with augmented choirs for special occasions. We could have a visiting choir, someone, a chazan and choir of maybe 5 or 6 people who would go round when invited to different synagogues. If there's a bar mitzvah, if there's a wedding, or if there's a special occasion. But we're prepared to do that. As long as the United Synagogue listen, we will provide. And that is the problem.
And my other question to you, if I may, thank you, is, and I know you're Alex, I know you are, I think of your dear brother of, Zichron Livracha. Tell me something else. Have you ever heard of the Cantor choir?
Yes, absolutely, but not for a long time.
No, there's no longer. I actually used to sing. It was in the days, we were all very frum. I'm amazed at it. I never ever sang solo, although, I could have done in those days. My voice has broken a lot through teaching. But I never did. But it was a very kosher choir. We had leading chazanim coming, and I won't give their names, and people with the black hats, and from Stanford Hill and whatever. It's just a shame that it was a very small choir, very modest choir, but we enjoyed ourselves. And many of the tunes that you've sung, Lewandowski, and we had wonderful time, wonderful repertoire.
See, people don't realise that the founder of synagogal choral music in the world was Zaltzer from Vienna. Zaltzer handed the music down to Lewandowski, Mombach, and people of that ilk who created their own music. And all the synagogues throughout the world were singing this music till 30, 40 years ago, when there were chazonim in synagogues. And the first person, 150 years ago, when the United Synagogue came into being, the first person the synagogue would give a job to was the chazan. Many synagogues didn't have rabbonim, even in those days. Many synagogues had choirs, and some of the synagogues even had mixed choirs. So that wasn't unheard of. And if you have a look at Michael Jollis's encyclopedia, which I recommend, all the information about every synagogue in the country from Cromwell's time till present day, with their ministers, their chazonim, their choirs, and their history, is available to to download as a PDF online through the European Cantors Association. So
What is it called?
The Encyclopedia of Jewish cantors, chazonim, ministers, and synagogue musicians.
Michael John is holding up a picture of the
Whoops.
very
I've got one.
Hearty greetings to Michael.
Right.
Thank you.
But it's been
the author of the Michael. I've asked you to unmute yourself if that works. You could just say a couple of words about your encyclopedia. There you go.
I'm prepared to speak tonight, actually. But it's online. Look at the website for European Cantors Association. Scroll down and you'll see the word book launch October the 6th. And at the bottom of it, it says, go here to download. I think that's the bottom line of the segment. There's a home page of European Cantors Association.
But Michael is a tzaddik. He's written nearly 1,000 pages on UK chazonim, and that covers quite a few of the chazonim who are no longer in the UK. And so, Flora, you'll be able to read the biographies of all your favorite star chazonim since your childhood.
Right. Could I say that in Edgware United, we're still keeping up the tradition of chazan and sometimes choir. Last Shabbos, our cousin Yossi Schwartz was accompanied by the Naima singers.
Yes.
Had a wonderful, wonderful service.
And we've got Michael Miller here. We've got Michael Miller, who's got a beautiful, Melvin Miller, sorry, I'm half asleep tonight. Melvin Miller, who's got a beautiful voice, who sings solo on the Yamim Noraim. We've got some, and I know Malcolm you've mentioned, we've got some very star people here sitting there, you know.
I've also noticed Eric Smith is here, and Eric was secretary and a member of the Manchester Jewish Male Voice Choir. Maybe, Eric, you can say a few words in reflection about the wonderful choir, both under Gonski and under
Eric,
Adrian.
I've asked you to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Very interesting program this evening. Lovely to hear from you, Alex and David. You've done some exceptionally good work. I first joined Fabian Gonski's choir. He had been a choir master in a big shul in Leipzig before the war, and he brought all the Salzer, Lewandowski, Ullmann, Mombach, all the pieces over. He had a very small choir in Krumsel Shul that used to daven with the late Shlomo Hirschman, and later with Avram Hillman Vashon. And because the shul choir tended to be specific to the shul, members of the shul choir decided they wanted to expand their horizons and do other things on the concert platform. So that's how the male voice choir was created. We did a lot of stuff with most of the big chazonim of the day, and particularly with Binyamin Muller, who came over to do a concert, I think, in aid of Manchester Jewish Grammar School. And that was when the newly founded male voice choir got together with people from all over the place. And we did a concert after 6 weeks. We'd only been going 6 weeks. We did the first concert with Binyamin Muller in the Middleton Civic Hall. And I can remember standing next to Adrian when Binyamin at the end of the concert said, I want to record with you. He says, I like your choir very much indeed. And as a result of which, he organized a concert in Hagenau, just outside Strasbourg, where we hired a plane specially to go over on a Sunday because there wasn't a direct flight from Manchester to Strasbourg. So we had to hire our own plane. We were met by a coach, which took us, I don't know whether you've ever been in Times Square and seen all the illuminations there, but as we turned the corner into Hagenau, there was this illuminated sign on the wall which says, "Welcome to Hagenau, Manchester Jewish Male Voice Choir." And that was a Sunday in, I think it was, would have been November, early 80s. David knows the exact dates of the, as a result of which the following year, the year that Antwerp was the European City of Excellence, Binyamin Muller, whose Midnight Silichas was always televised in Antwerp, he was given the opportunity of bringing a choir over. He brought us over, and we did a concert there from which the recordings were made. But we had we sang with some phenomenal. You mentioned
you're reminding me of Antwerp because Jill, me, and the children, we went over one year to Antwerp for Midnight Sleepers to hear Benjamin Muller live, and Alex will be very pleased to hear this. The rabbi spoke for 90 seconds. Belgian television was there.
Yeah.
Wished everybody a happy new year. You're not here to hear me.
Yeah.
You mentioned Chazan Muller from Antwerp. Chazan Muller last week was at our Holocaust Memorial Service.
Yes.
And he recorded he sang live Kel Malay Rachamim, and with the two pieces from Yossi and Tim Dempsey's choir. They are available on YouTube on the Salford Holocaust Memorial Day program, which has been recorded. And if you want to hear Chazan Muller and Yossi Muller with the choir in full glory, you can actually download and listen to it off YouTube.
So thank you to Alex, who actually put me in touch with that, because I originated from Salford and I was able to hear it. So thank you very much, Alex.
Is there a final comment that anyone wishes to make? No. Well, in that case, I'd like to say...
Thank you very much. Thank you, Spencer.
I'd like to say what a wonderful evening we've had. If you want to watch it again or recommend it to your friends, you'll be able to find a recording of this session on our Edgware US YouTube channel. And this session will be added immediately on YouTube. And more information about our adult education program can be found on our website, www.edgwareu.com. Alternatively, contact our office@edgwareu.com, and ask to be placed on the circulation list for the adult education program. Our next session is on Tuesday, the 15th of February, when Dan Fox, the recently elected national chairman of AJEX, and Brian Bloom, who's here tonight, vice president and past chairman of AJEX, will give a presentation on the topic of 250 years of Jews serving in the British military. Our next cantorial session will be in 4 weeks' time, on Tuesday, the 1st of March, when Cantor Yehuda Marks, who is also here tonight, will lead a session on the Manchester cantorial scene today, and will include, among others, the Mullers, who you have heard tonight. And 4 weeks later, on Tuesday, the 29th of March, I shall have the privilege of interviewing the world-famous cantor, Joseph Malavani. I'd like to thank David and Alex for their informative and entertaining presentation, and for including some material which has not been available before. It was more of a concert than a talk. I look forward to including further presentations by the European Cantors Association in future programs at Edgware United Synagogue. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us.
Melanie and Yehuda in the not too